What's up, YouTube? This is True Raw for TV. And as always, I'd like to remind you guys that if you want to donate to this channel, if you want to contribute to this channel, if you want to show love to this channel, you can do so in the links provided in the description box below. Now, let's talk about this Dame Lillard situation. Of course, Dame Lillard made some comments talking about the trend of super teams and recruitment in the NBA, and he basically said that he thought that Michael Jordan probably didn't go around recruiting players to come play with him. And they talked about this on Undisputed, Skip and Shannon, and, you know, I guess you could say both had kind of predictable takes on it. You know, Skip is a Jordan fan, so of course he's going to, probably side with Damian on this, and Shannon's a LeBron fan, or fanboy. And of course he's going to side with, he's going to take offense, to what Lillard said. But there's one thing I think Shannon did say that I kind of think is a good point, but at the same time, you can't blame the organization for this Portland I'm talking about. He brought up Damian Lillard's contract, and shout out to QuestX too. QuestX did a video about this, and this actually what put me onto this. He talked about how, talking about Shannon Sharp, basically maybe Portland shouldn't be paying him the contract he's getting paid. I think he gets paid like I think his contract total worth is like $190 million or something like that over a period of so many years, maybe 5 years. I don't know. I can't remember. But basically he was saying like, well, maybe Portland would be able to recruit more players if they weren't giving you such a big contract, a max contract. And I'm like, well, first of all, you don't say that about LeBron James. You don't say that about some of these other guys out here. But somehow Damian Lillard has to take less money. But, and Lillard deserves every penny of what he's getting. Okay? He's been a guy who's been perennially undervalued as far as all-star appearances. He should have far more all-star appearances. This is a guy that's always putting up 26, 27 points per game. One of the great scorers and shooters at his position, extremely high basketball IQ, and gives you 100% on the court every day. He has one of the highest basketball IQs, I think, in the NBA, and he makes everyone around him better. And if they had Nurkic this year in the playoffs, I think they would have made it. They still would have made it to the Western Conference Finals, and I think it would have been a little bit more competitive, a little bit more. I still don't think they would have beaten the Warriors, but give credit where credit's due. This is a team that before this year was always getting out in the first round. They made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals, and this is without their star center, Nurkic. I always have problems with his name. So don't disrespect Damian Lillard like that, talking about his contract. But Shannon Sharp did make a good point about Jordan taking less money. Jordan could have demanded more money because Jordan was working off of an old contract where he was making $2.5 million a year or something like that. Now, in 1985, that was great money. Remember, Magic Johnson was the first player to make $1 million a season. So in the mid 80s, or late 80s, well, I'm talking about like 87 or whatever, that's good money. But by 1991, 92, that wasn't really a lot of money when you talk about the inflation of the NBA and how much these guys were making more, as far as money is concerned. But Jordan didn't really care because he was making so much money off of endorsements. But let me get to the point, because a lot of people say, Mike, oh man, you make so many points about all this. Okay. Do I think that Michael Jordan openly recruited players? Yes and no. Yes and no. I do remember reading about how Michael Jordan did openly recruit within the organization. He did recruit Walter Davis. He wanted to play with Walter Davis. Ultimately, the organization chose not to go after Walter Davis, but he really wanted to play Walter Davis. If you don't know about this, Walter Davis was a guy that Michael grew up idolizing, patterned his game after. It was he and David Thompson were the two guys that Michael Jordan really uh, loved to play, watched to play. Walter Davis had his best years with the Phoenix Suns. By this time, when Michael Jordan was openly recruiting him, Walter Davis was with the Denver Nuggets and was a shell of himself, but was still a good enough player to be a contributor off the bench. And this is, of course, I think was around the time the Bulls were consistently losing to the Pistons. I think it was around that time or close to it. And he asked the organization to come, to try to get him, but they didn't do it. Another thing I remember is, and this is in the book, The Jordan Rules, Jordan did actually say to the Chicago Bulls organization that he needed help. Okay? I mean, I'm just being honest. He did say he needed help because he didn't particularly like Bill Cartwright. I remember June 27th, 1988, which was the day. The reason why I remember that date so well, part of it is because it's the same day that Mike Tyson knocked out Michael Spinks. It was also the same day the Chicago Bulls traded Charles Oakley, who you remember is Michael Jordan's great friend, to the Knicks in exchange for Bill Cartwright, a trade that Michael Jordan absolutely fumed over. He hated that trade. Oakley was his enforcer. And but the Bulls thought they needed a little bit more scoring at that and down low, so they got Cartwright. Um, he hated Cartwright, and he did ask for the organization to trade Bill Cartwright, which they ultimately didn't do. But what did happen was that Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant both ultimately matured and developed as players to the point where they both became, especially Scottie Pippen, all-star caliber players, and the Chicago Bulls finally began to become the Chicago Bulls. Now, another thing that I got to say, Michael may have, he did recruit for Dennis Rodman, okay? The Chicago Bulls, after Horace Grant, who I just mentioned, after Horace Grant gave the handshake agreement, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was he gave a handshake agreement to come back for another year with the Chicago Bulls. He had just had an All-Star year. It was only his only All-Star year, which is 93-94. And he agreed to come back and play another year. But ultimately, he signed with the Orlando Magic. So the Chicago Bulls missed Horace Grant terribly. They missed that inside presence, that's that presence down low for rebounding and occasional scoring. But especially what they missed was the rebounding and toughness. And you could see it. That was one of the problems with the Chicago Bulls uh, in that '95 season. Yes, part of it was Michael Jordan playing like shit down the stretch at times, but a lot of it was, if I remember correctly, a lot of times they had Tony Kukoc playing at the power forward position, and Tony Kukoc was not a banger. He was what you would call now a stretch four. So if you're Michael Jordan, you see your former nemesis Dennis Rodman in a situation in San Antonio that he did not like. It wasn't working in San Antonio. He wasn't a good fit for that organization. So you see this disgruntled guy. Yeah, he's exactly what we need. Some toughness. Yeah, a lot of baggage comes with Dennis Rodman, but I think, if you handle him right, it will work out. And it did. So yeah, Michael Jordan did recruit other players. But what he didn't do is go around recruiting guys that he wanted to fucking annihilate. His competitive nature would not allow that. He did not openly recruit for guys like Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing and Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway. He wanted to beat them. That's the difference. He wanted to kill these motherfuckers. Rip their hearts out and make them irrelevant. That's the difference between Michael Jeffrey Jordan and LeBron Ramon James. LeBron Ramon James sees these guys and like, oh man, look at this guy's game, man. Hey, wow. Anthony Davis, man, is a man. Look, if I had Davis, man, oh my God, man, I would probably win like what 4, 5, 6 more rings, man. Oh my God. And look, if I had DeMarcus Cousins, 2, oh my God, man. But you know what really would be great? If I could kind of talk Kevin Durant to joining me, man. If I had Kevin. And if I could also get maybe Russell, Russell Westbrook, man. Look, if I could get him, man, I would win more rings than Bill Russell, man. Man, but you know what? I really want to talk. You know what? Look. Hey, man, I really want to see if I could talk. Because he'll be a free agent soon. Draymond Green, he come off our bench. Look, man, I think that, that's the shit people get mad about with LeBron James. It's the overkill with it. That's why people like Charles Barkley said, damn, don't he want to compete? He wants every fucking body on his team. And don't forget, this is a guy who openly admitted that he's been recruiting guys since 2007. So this is back in his first stint with Cleveland. This is around the time, I'm assuming, that he started doing this after he got swept in the finals by the Spurs. I'm assuming that's when he started doing it. Now, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's the overkill. And there's been super teams forever. There's always been these great teams. But a lot of times, it's just greater personal satisfaction in knowing that you're the best. That's what's at the heart of it. They won't admit it. LeBron James fans won't admit this. But what really is missing from a lot of these guys, I'm talking about the players, there's still this dissatisfaction. Like, for instance, you look at LeBron James when he won those first 2 championships with Miami, right? He was ecstatic. But you can tell that when he won that last ring with Cleveland, when his team wasn't necessarily stacked, or if it was stacked, you look at what he was playing against the Golden State Warriors, come back from that 3 games and 1 deficit. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, you can talk about the Draymond Green situation. I get all that. But he had greater personal satisfaction. You could see it in how he reacted to that championship. It meant more to him because it validated him as a player. That's why he said after he beat Golden State, he considered himself the greatest player of all time because that made him personally. It alleviated all of his in his mind. It validated his career. It validated all of the uh, it validated all of the praise and adulation and expectations that he'd been getting ever since he came out of high school, back in 2003. And it's also why I think that you heard Kevin Durant say that he was despondent and all these different things. You would think he'd be overjoyed, right? After winning those championships with Golden State. But he still is unsatisfied because I think personally, this is just my opinion, I think personally, he still doesn't feel satisfied. He can say it's the media and all this shit. I think he didn't still feel satisfied. Like he said, is this it? Yeah, because I don't want to say you're on a stacked team, but you kind of were on a stacked team. Let's be honest. Like when you compare the Golden State Warriors to the Cleveland Cavaliers, especially the second time in 2018, I mean, come on. There was no real. I mean, it's of course it was an anticlimactic series. We all knew who was going to win that series. We all knew it. We all knew it. So it was not a feeling of I've arrived. I've proven my greatness. Well, you won a championship. That's what you wanted. You got it. But you still seem like you're unsatisfied. This is Kevin Durant's words, not mine. He felt the organization didn't value him and all this type of stuff. Look, man, all I'm saying is I think Dame Lillard has a point to an extent. I do think there's way too many players who are trying to link up to win. But at the same time, you have to have some level of talent to be able to win in this league. All right. And also, if you want to have talented players around you, you would have to have second thoughts about asking for max contracts all the time because you know ultimately it's going to hurt you in some way. You might have two max players on one team, but you're going to have very little else around you. You're going to have a bunch of yeet bop bavujits around you and Droznik, Havovazins, some dudes that can shoot some threes, and that's about it. You know? Then you want to complain about why you can't get out the first round or you can't get out the second round. So that's it, man. I mean, that's my take on it, man. I think I agree with Damian Lillard for the most part. I do think that the Michael Jordan never asked for, help shit is a little bit overstated, but I understand where it's coming from. I understand where it's coming from. With LeBron James, it's overkill. It's overkill, man. It's like, you think I'm joking? I mean, this is a guy who, since 2010, has been on teams that have had over 40 trades. 40. And when you think about it, as much as he openly recruits, he still lost 6 out of 9 NBA Finals. So, it is what it is. Tell me what you guys think.